All right. Next up.
Time to go docking.
Next up is the meeting with Rain. Excuse me, no docking Rain, please.
Oh, I'm in the vessel. Sorry, didn't realize we were alive.
Yeah, I gave you the warning, but you weren't listening, so...
What was the warning?
Well, I said we were going live, and you were like...
I go live in 10.
He explicitly said, "I'm going live. Don't talk about docking anymore, Scott." And he just went away.
Yeah, you go and talk about docking. I can't stop the man.
Well, how else are we going to get onto the other... Okay, let's just keep going.
Insatiable.
So, next up is your talk with Rain.
Okay.
Which I imagine you have to find Rain, because if you tried to ping her data pad, she's not got it on her.
No, because everybody knows like which hour to show up or to like pre-plan, so she would know where to meet me. It's a matter of if she shows up on time or not.
Rain, this is a good question.
It's a good question.
Because normally I'd say Rain is probably a little bit late, but she's quite nervous about this, so she might actually be a little bit early. So I would say Rain sort of she probably turns up a little bit early and then just sort of like waits outside the door nervously and isn't sure whether to come in or not.
So I would let it go for 5 minutes if she waits out that whole 5 minutes or not.
Yeah, she's just sort of like nervously outside, sort of looking around and like we all have like the equivalent of watches or whatever, and sort of knocks on the wall or door.
I almost imagine like as I'm opening the door, you're knocking on it.
Yeah.
Like, oh. Hello, Rain.
Hello, Davis, boss.
Did you is everything working fine?
Yeah.
Come in.
Rain comes in, sits down, one hand on the lap, other hand on the wrist, sort of clearly a little bit nervous and meek.
Don't sit down yet. I'm kind of stand opposite her, but not like in her face. Obviously, step back a few.
Your crew rooms are quite big when there's just like for one room. The issue is that they're two bedrooms each.
Yeah.
You know.
So I say, how are you feeling right now?
I'm fine. I'm feeling right as rain.
The joke's not lost on him. He just doesn't smile.
Rain, it's one of seeing him not smile. Rain sort of like got one of those hopeful grins, and then it just sort of fades a little bit.
Aww, how are you hurting this puppy?
So, I want to hear it yelp. No, so I say, has I imagine since what has transpired, you've had an opportunity to go and reload the guns?
Oh, yeah. It's all good to go whenever we need it.
Were you filled in on the captain's plan and what's happening next?
Yeah, more or less. We're going to be meeting up with some ship and then following it, right?
Yeah, it's a science vessel that the guild was able to procure one way or another sometime recently.
Right, and we give them the alien doohickey and follow and make sure they go the right place, yeah?
That might be the plan. Captain has the mind of assessing the vessel prior to us just handing them the device. That way when the time comes sorry, I'm just like cat meow.
Neil loves that cat more than
it is fantastic.
The first time I ever saw that image was on Twitter like a day ago from Ollie. So I don't know what it is. So anyways, I live under a rock. It's nice. It's cozy down here. Hakuna Matata. So you has the mind of when the ship arrives to go aboard, assess the situation before we decide to just give them this device and just travel with it. We would like the opportunity to use their facilities to do further research, but maybe that won't even be an option. So when the time comes that we do meet up with them, it'll be the captain, Tomas and Jason that do the assessment. I was actually curious on if you think that it would be a good idea for you to go on that ship as well.
Well, I mean, Assessment? I mean, what are we looking for? I don't really know if I'd be the best choice. I can be there if you need something shot, but I don't really know if I'd be any good at spotting what is a science ship and what isn't. You know?
My concern is whether or not we would need somebody shot.
Well, if you need me on there in case someone needs shooting, then yeah, by all means, I'm just order me and I'll go. I have no problem with that.
And I would be able to hold down the base here, and if need be, you'd be able to come back quickly to inform us if anything need to be done. In the meanwhile, you'd be able to keep an eye over them. They're going to be a bit distracted with assessing the people and the situation, potentially the equipment, and I would expect you to be their eyes at their back.
Sure, yeah, I can do that. Spend a lot of time looking down a gun's barrel. Pretty good at noticing, keeping an eye on things. Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I go and I sit down. Now I finally will sit down and sit across from her, and I'll say, "How well did you get to know Donnie in the How well did you get to know Donnie in the short period of time he was on the vessel?"
I don't know. I think we had a pretty good. We were friendly enough. I mean, he wasn't the biggest fan of my guitar, but I mean, he talked a lot. He was easy to talk to. So I mean, it's pretty sad what happened to him. I hope it wears off because he's not a bad guy. Bit like me, not very clever, but a decent bloke, really. I think at the heart of it. He grew up in that place. Pretty bad place to grow up, really.
I agree. This is a fate that's not something that he necessarily deserves. I don't think anybody would deserve this fate. It's a shame we weren't able to detect what was happening sooner, so we could potentially stop it from going as far as it did.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess by the time I noticed something, it would have been too late. But I sort of wonder if I should have noticed before you said anything. They were acting a bit weird, but I mean, the other two were quiet normally, so I didn't really see anything bad. And I thought Donnie was maybe just having an off day. But yeah,
it's quite the off day.
Yeah.
You had the most exposure to the device than anybody else that is currently, we'll just say, that has their wits about them at the moment. How does it make you feel knowing that?
I mean, it ain't affected me. It ain't affected me like it affected Donnie and the others. I don't know why, but I don't really think much of it. As long as I'm still right in the head, it don't really matter. I mean, I don't want to go like them, but I mean, if I've been down there for that long and it ain't affected me, but it affected them, then as long as I'm not down there again, I'm probably okay, I figure.
I know you went down there, you would spend time hanging out with Donnie because you had some mild friendship that was budding there, which is wonderful. And I know that you would go down there to play your guitar. Did you ever spend any time sleeping, napping in that area?
I mean, I might have had a nap or two down there. Nothing major. Probably an hour or two. Sometimes I just sit down where I am, have a nap, you know?
Still. My concern is whether or not it's more likely to penetrate one's mind while they're sleeping. More off guard, different waves going off. You can get more details about that kind of stuff from Jason, I imagine, but that was one of my concerns because they slept down there as more than just a length of time of exposure, but also the kind of exposure that they had compared to you.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe the sleeping thing has an effect, but if they were down there 24/7, I was down there half a day, maybe 2/3 of a day most days, and I didn't sleep for more than an hour or two down there. It might just be like length of how long in one go we were exposed to it. Maybe it takes effect after a couple of days constantly next to it. I don't know. This ain't my sort of thing. I'm just guessing here.
Jason has a whole list of different potentials and is taking notes on each one of them as needed to see what he thinks would have the greatest outcome. Theoretically, we'll get more information when we start doing research on the other vessel. We need to talk about something else.
Yeah? What's that?
You are a unique person. You have abilities that are beyond most people's understanding or reasoning. I'm not here to judge you for your capabilities or how it is you came about them, and I'm not here to exploit you for them either. My question is, do you understand to any degree what your limits are? For instance, can you control it? Or does it happen only at certain times that are periodic? Is it only you that can go, or how far you can go?
You mean the blinking, right? Disappearing from somewhere and reappearing elsewhere? Yeah.
Correct.
That's him. I do that. It ain't. I mean, I ain't done it in so long. It's probably pretty obvious, really, that I do. I mean, you hadn't seen it before, then I guess. It's just I forget half the time I can do it because I do it so little. But then I think, oh, I can do that. I can get there in a blink, like just click my fingers, basically. So, I mean, in terms of limits, and she sort of looks down, is clearly thinking, and there's clearly something a little bit painful there. She sort of goes, I don't, I'm not sure, but I think maybe I can do that to about 100 or so. I can disappear somewhere and reappear maybe 100 meters away. I think it's got to be somewhere I've seen before or can see. And I mean, I can do it often, but not like over time. Like if I do it 3 times in say 30 minutes, then I can't do it anymore. But I could do it 3 times in 30 minutes, and then maybe 3 times in 30 minutes again later that day, I think.
Have you ever seen Tomas free lift? It's kind of ridiculous how much that man can put up. But if he does too many sets in a short period of time, he doesn't have the strength to continue with that many reps with each set. So I understand with what you're saying.
Yeah,
at least from that
guess
perspective.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, well, if that's the case, from what I've gathered that you've described, could you do me a small favor? At least while the situation's going on, every once in a while, as you walk past it in the hallway, can you just take a glance in the medical bay? I want it to be one of the most forefront things on your mind. If you need to get there, if things go sideways, I want that to be a place where you can get to easily.
Sure, yeah, I can do that.
Well, the weapons are all set. You're aware of the mission. You're aware of the concerns about the peoples that we're going to be interacting with, and your part will be when we join up with them. Thank you for explaining to me what you did thus far with your abilities. As I said, I'm not here to exploit you for them. You are who you are, and I'm not going to judge you for those aspects. Thank you for sharing those details with me. I don't think there's anything else I have to say to you, Rain, other than, do you think that this device is going to impact you more than the rest of us because of your abilities? And as I say that, I actually kind of like stand up slowly as I'm asking the question.
Do I have any sense of that at all, Ollie, or do I just?
Why don't you give me a psychic intelligence roll?
A psychic intelligence.
That's a thing? I was going to say a psychic roll, jokingly.
It is a thing for Ian. Only.
It is a thing, yes.
Only Ian gets the psychic roll. The cool thing about Stars What Number, sort of unlike D&D, like characters can have their own things that no one else can roll. You actually are aware, sort of, you're thinking about it. You have vague memories of voices from a long time ago. You usually don't try to remember.
Yeah.
That interference with alien artifacts is different with you. As if being psychic makes you immune to the vast majority of alien effects. is something you remember being talked about before.
Yeah. So again, you see Rain clearly tried to remember something, and you see sort of like it's painful to remember. And he says, "Yeah, I think I think it won't affect me. I think it's vague. But I don't think it'll affect me."
Well, while standing in that, standing over, I say, well, let's not play. Let's not start. No, I say, well, let's not make you a guinea pig and start testing that theory right now. I expect you to stay as far away from that thing as possible.
Yeah, sure. That's fair. Boss, I figure that's pretty much what you want to talk about. I just, before I go, I want to say sorry.
I'll cross my arms and kind of like take a half step, like settle back on my heels.
Before the whole thing with them going crazy went down, you seemed not upset with me, but like I'd let you down. And I've been thinking about it, been racking my brains, and I can't figure out what I did. But I mean, you're the clever one here, and you've been around the block a lot, so I figured it probably was my fault. I probably did something wrong. So whatever that was, I'm sorry. Yeah.
There's no transgressions that need to be concerned about. You've done perfectly fine, and you've been completely honest. If you could just do me one little favor, Rain, as you go about your duties.
Yeah.
While I would suggest that you go and take a nap, you're going to need some rest after what we've been through. What I would request of you is that you should swing by the medical bay from time to time, as I said, not only to glance in, but have him do routine scans. He's more or less doing this to everybody, including myself, to make sure that things are going fine.
Sure, I can do that. I mean, if that'll, yeah, sure.
Okay. I'll actually walk over to the door and I'll open it and stand by the doorway.
Rain gets up. She's clearly a bit relieved, and sort of like a lot of nervous energy has sort of just left her after that, and she sort of smiles at him and nods gratefully on the way out.
I'm glad I had my chat with Davis and not that one.
It ended with a fucking power play.
So after that, it's not very long until the ship goes into sort of night mode. Most worlds.
It's when we have the flashing black lights and the music really picks up.
Maybe in your room, but the lights dim. Anna at least goes to sleep. Anyone else who wants to go to sleep goes to sleep. I'm not really worried about it. But I do know you have a meeting with Mickey. I'm gonna go change my lights real quick before I end up full Dave over here.
That's okay. That was good. That's right. I'll talk to Mickey while I'm waiting for you to come back.
I love how he just like scurries off.
Excuse me. Oh,
he like actually runs the way we always mock Mike for running, like a.
I have to launch off of this chair. There's forward momentum.
Is it because you're so little, your legs don't touch the ground?
Oh no, Ollie spent so much time in that chair that his leg muscles have atrophied.
Yeah,
so I'm just stand up. He needs to rock it out.
Yeah.
You mean his legs are as scrawny as we actually assumed?
Yeah.
Actually, my legs are the most muscular part of me for some reason.
Are they muscular?
I got little wiggly arms. Excuse me, sir.
At William's bachelor party, we were talking about who had tree trunk legs. It's actually like who's going to win the calf war. It's funny because Will actually, I mean, he's much larger than I am, right? He's a really tall, beefy guy, so he has bigger calves than me, but usually I take the cake. Hey, I'm going to show
No. that was knee cam. That
all
that
have
was.
to pay for that one.
It was just knees. Yeah. So you said you'd go to see Mickey in his quarters. I imagine you go and knock, and it would open up. His quarters are
It's like
more
one
of
of
a
those hands behind the back sort of
Yeah.
things.
His quarters are like equal parts bedroom and meeting room and office. They're much comfier than the rest of the rooms. He actually does have a full double bed. He has.
Does he have a bar?
I was gonna say he has a decanter. He
That's good
has
enough.
a bookshelf, a proper like terminal in here, and all that. It's very comfy, like comfy chairs and things. Need motion to one of them. He'd be sort of looking out one of the window screens, which isn't a real window because that's very dangerous, but looks directly in front of the ship. And actually,
That's gonna be the elves don't sleep of this campaign.
there's no actual windows
Once a session.
because
every
there
session.
was one last
We
session
have
as
had
well.
it each session.
That's true.
No.
And it's actually quite interesting because from where the ship is parked, you can actually see Pike in the distance, but just as a sort of a blue orb, you know. And he's clearly looking at it from afar. He kind of motions for you to sit down. He's like, "I'll be with you in a second. I mean, this is to check to make sure I'm not going crazy, right?"
A little bit more than that. It's also a reporting back of the findings that I've had from the rest of the crew.
Yeah. How has it been going? I mean, honestly, and he like goes to sit in like a comfy like that chair, and sits in it and settles down. He's pretty old. He's pretty worn. He like really takes a few moments into comfort and goes, "Honestly, these kind of meetings you've been doing seem like a smart idea. I think even if it's not needed, it's not going to be needed daily most of the time, but maybe once a week or two, probably a good idea to have these little meetings, you know, check the quality of the crew."
It's only because of the situation that we're in right now.
I know, I just think it's a good idea, honestly, you know? You're meant to know everyone, that's your job, and I think this probably, I mean, you might have found out something new about someone, I hope. At least how I deal with this kind of situation.
Yes, not necessarily new.
Thomas, what's down his whiskey?
Yeah, with soda.
Yeah, with man and cheese.
I will say the phrase, some disappointments along the way.
He nods. He doesn't like go get a drink or anything. He just sort of sits. But does motion to like there'd be like a water dispenser on the wall, because you should drink a lot of water. He has one nearby, but he's not currently drinking. Well, tell me what you
Stay
found.
hydrated, kids.
First and foremost, each crew member has their own nuanced concerns about the situation that we're going into. Namely, the artifact, of course, but then also who it is that is employing us right now, and the encounter we're about to have with this other vessel. I mean, these aren't surprises to you, but
Nope.
these concerns are a bit deeper than I would have expected of them. It's something that I think we really do need to approach very, very carefully with how we're going to handle it. I think the obviously the artifact is the one that nobody here is doubting in their minds. Just put that aside for now. Our employer, I don't trust her. Flat out, sir. I don't trust her. Neither does the crew. Nobody trusts this entire situation. Because even if she was a good friend of yours in the past, she's gotten herself into a really tight spot. And when people are desperate, they're going to make very desperate decisions, and friendships become opportunities. And I honestly think that you are an opportunity for her.
What are you trying to say?
She's having us fly this thing straight there for her. And what are they going to do with it when it gets there? We're expendable in her mind. We are hopefully things go well. Hopefully she makes her money. Hopefully nothing bad comes of this in the future. Hope. But very likely many of those things are going to break down along the way. If not at first, then chain reaction. Once the first one goes, so on and so forth. I think that we need to reassess if this is even the plan we want to move forward with. I still agree with your plan. When the ship gets here, make an assessment, make a judgment call from there. But I think one of the things we should leave on the table is turning it and hightailing it the fuck out of there. I really don't know if we should push forward with the plan, but just keep it on our ship. All options need to be open at that point.
What are we gonna do with the thing if we don't give it to the ship that's gonna see us.
There's always rocket to a star, but I understand what you're saying. Perhaps we can find a way to disable it permanently without being so ludicrous. Perhaps we can find ourselves a person that understands these things better, that might come with a better reputation or at least less connections than where we're bringing it. None of us want to see the devastating outcome that can come from a device such as this.
Why don't you, Scott, make me a lead charisma check?
One second. I got really excited. Oh, that's still a good roll.
Really good roll. He takes a moment, maybe a minute, maybe two, just thinking, sort of rubbing at his face. I don't like welching on a deal. The Magpie is what it is because we've completed every job we've ever been set upon. Maybe situations change, maybe we've been betrayed before, but we've done every job. When you start to ruin a reputation, just one thing can ruin a reputation, and that's not good. This ship is my name. But you're right, this thing is dangerous, and this job has always been suspicious. Okay. We'll wait for their ship. We'll look at it. We'll get on board. We'll see what's going on. And I'll let you make the call. If you think it's all wrong, if you think something's going shit-shaped, we get out of there.
Then I might request that when you go to assess the ship, you bring with you, of course, Tomas and Jason, because they're going to be our experts. Obviously, nobody's going to be able to get a lie past you. You're a very keen person. I would also suggest you take Rain. I think having her there with her guns and potentially her abilities would be an invaluable asset to the situation. We'll leave the device on our ship, at least at first.
Absolutely, and I mean, Earth be praising that everything works out and that they actually are upstanding citizens. Because remember, this is a job through Lucia, but it's for the Merchant Guild. I mean, there's always people who are making weird deals, but these ships should just be regular people like you and me. I mean, more like me than you, probably, but...
And this should have been a regular salvage job with regular people like you and me and Donnie.
Always good to listen to your instincts on a case like this. I mean, you're right. Of course you're right. I mean, that's why you're here, because you're right.
My other concern is Rain.
I mean, obviously we don't tell them what she is.
I'm not concerned about that. Actually, that doesn't bother me in the least bit. I've heard about these things before. I honestly have no understanding of it and intend to do some reading to understand better when we have access.
Well, let me tell you that people like her, people who are gifted, who are special, they're a dime a dozen. They're very rare, and they can be hard to find. And when they are found, people don't want to get rid of them. So if they find out what she is, even if they are good, upstanding people, they might sell her to someone who ain't.
Doesn't sound like good, upstanding people to me, but I understand what you're saying, sir, and I will not be putting her into that type of situation.
What she is stays secret for as long as possible.
Sir. Now, beyond that, my concern is how she's not the brightest of people. That's not why she's here. She's here because has a kind heart, and she's damn good with a rifle.
It's a strange mixture, but, it works.
But that doesn't change the fact that they changed before her. She was the closest to them and had the changes before her, and she didn't notice a damn thing until it was too late. Which means that it could be the fact that, again, she's not the brightest star in the night, but it could also be that her abilities, how her mind works, makes her turn a bit of a blind eye to the changes as they were happening. There is some sort of link between her and the device, even if not direct. So, it's just something that we should be wary of. I don't distrust her. It's just with this device involved, I just have a bad feeling.
It's always good to be careful. I understand. Anything else?
I don't believe so. Oh, actually, one more thing. Do not share your good drink with Tomas. Good night, sir. And I'll leave the room.
Good night. Get some sleep.
Rain in that conversation. Everyone else. She's not the brightest star in the night. She's got a good heart.
Well, she said exactly, pretty much exactly that to Jason in their conversation last week. So
Rain knows. Yeah, that's at least a good thing. So, it's around 2 hours later that Anna calls a ping through the ship, being like,
This is Anna. Through the sheep.
"Oh, we have guests approaching, and be docking with them. Jason, Thomas, wake up. You're joining the captain on a walk around with them, and you might want to do some communications with their ship before they actually dock." Jason.
We gotta scan the ever-living shit out of them.
Yeah. She's basically waking you up when they're like within scanning range, because she sits next to the scanning desk and be like, there they are. So I imagine everyone gets to the bridge. Rain maybe is asleep. I don't know. Everyone gets to the bridge and gets ready.
Rain groggily wanders in with a rifle on her back.
And Davis, do you tell him to scan the ever shit out of the enemy ship?
I should probably say those exact words.
Yeah,
so we were
that's
all
what
the
I
bridge,
was
they're like,
thinking. Yeah,
scan the ever-living. I say communications officer. Scan the ever-living shit out of that thing.
I second that command.
Continues his walk round and sits down in the chair, takes his glasses off and rubs his eyes. Right. Okay. Scan. Sure. Don't blame me if they blow us up.
Perception intelligence, please.
While he's scanning, I'll say to Anna, like, Anna, did you and Tomas get to have that conversation?
I mean, we make sure the engines are working more than the rest of the ship.
As long as I can do what you need it to. I'll turn my attention back to him.
So you see the
Sorry,
obvious
my compad is very slow.
Yeah, that's true.
I downloaded more RAM and it didn't work.
It's the pop-ups.
The ship that's approaching you is called the Millstone. It is a pike-made ship, which actually means the docking is going to be very easy because you're literally going to be going from your upstairs dock to their essential equivalent, like personnel dock, and because they're the same sort of design of ship, they just go
pike to pike docking.
Pike to pike docking.
Pike to pike docking.
It is the same kind of ship as yours, as in it's a free merchant, but it's very clearly, as you're scanning it, it has an extra floor. Instead of having all this cargo space, it's got 3 floors, and its bottom floor is dedicated, it seems, to be this sort of science wing. It's not like you pull up the entire 3D document of like the inside of a ship, but you can look on the outside and you can figure out, that's where all the scanning machines are, and that there's clearly, 3 different floors. According to the public information on the ship, its captain is by the name of Paulus Pancorbo, which I will put in chat because it is a name.
It certainly is a name.
Paulus Pancorbo. And actually, Jason, Paulus is kind of a Brimish name, not necessarily a Pike-ish name. You also would have probably noticed its weapons because its hard points are quite easy to scan because it's not hidden or anything like that. It has a minigun like yours and also a much weaker multifocal laser, which is that's the sort of weapon a ship will have if they're not gonna have any other weapon because it can deter people but doesn't really
laser,
do a whole
baby.
lot. It's more, those weapons work via heating an area it's not like a laser cannon, actually like heats an area of the enemy ship consistently until it melts away. It doesn't do very much damage, but it has a huge armor-piercing potential, which is why it's good on any ship, but it's not the best.
It's like an infrared laser.
Yeah, essentially. In this setting, it would be. But they also have a minigun a bit like yours. It seems to be based on life signs that their crew is of 5 people. And yeah, anything else you would have been looking for on that scan? It's like documentation is all up to date. Like that would pop up instantly, like as being fine.
Anything else we're looking for, boss? Yes, Davis.
Mm-hmm.
After like reeling off some of the basic information, i.e. that.
It doesn't seem like the power is being diverted to any strange areas. Weapons are not online aimed at us in any way that we should see as harm, and no other out of the ordinary activities.
Also, visually, it looks quite good quality, as in it's not damaged. It probably been maintenance quite recently. You know, as clean as a spaceship can be.
Well, it seems like everything's on the up and up. Perhaps we should drop our guard and push forward. Or we should double our guard and everybody can't be on the edge of their seats. This could easily still be a Trojan horse, so everybody knows what their task is going to be as you move in. So please be wary of all the surroundings. It's not just your life it's not just your life in your hands. You know
Jason
our
pulls
jobs.
out his pistol and goes through his checks.
I'll then turn the attention to the captain.
He nods, just sort of. Well, what he said. Be careful, and if docking goes smoothly, then you know we'll walk about their ship, give it a look.
Okay.
As their ship gets closer, as the millstone gets closer, a handshake starts a video chat if you accept it. A voice chat if you accept it. It's from their pilot. Not their comms officer.
Before, just so you guys know, if anything goes to ship, there's a Lazarus patch in my room. You know how to use them, right? Peel it off, put them on. Easy peasy. And then I'll accept.
Is this the Magpie?
Roger that. This is the Magpie.
This is the Millstone. We are coming in for docking and going to be taking some cargo off you.
Yeah, we've got 3 people to come aboard. First off, 4 people. Sorry.
You hear the sound of like him putting his hand over the microphone and clearly talking to someone else, and then takes it on there.
Did you guys want more cheese? was that more cheese? Oh, there was extra cheese.
There's actually a moment like that in Subnautica, which was so fucking ridiculous, where there's you're stranded, and the ship that's coming to distress you has that. It was like, we're coming in to save you, and
Get
what?
normal.
What? No, I want the regular. Like, it's so funny.
What's the normal?
No, she'll know what the regular is. But what if she doesn't? It's like, ham and cheese. Why don't you just say ham and cheese? So good. So funny. And then he comes back and being like, that's all okay, actually. That'll be fine. Is that your captain coming aboard? We'll have a meeting party ready at the airlock for you when docking is completed.
Lovely.
And then it'll be one of those things where it's off, but in case there's a problem, it can easily, you know, you've had the handshake, you know. If something horrible happens, like a horrible issue during docking, which could happen if it wasn't an NPC piloting who has good piloting skills.
Does happen.
You know, a slip in the wrong place.
You break the seal. It's all over.
Don't want to do that. And then the ships actually do start docking without issue. Anna, you know, of all the things you've seen Anna do, this is one of the things where she seems the most concentrated, because it's a lot of very small maneuvers to make 2 pretty small hatches connect. And even though at a certain distance they basically connect themselves, it's still a bit of a weird dance between the 2 ships. But while that's going on, you're probably relieved that, like, their weapons never turn on or anything super crazy happens. They're in a very similar situation to you, where, like, their engine is off, although, because of what Davis asked, your engine is off, but ready for like a quick start just in case. That's when sort of your Captain Mickey sort of gets up from his chair and sort of irons out the creases on his Hawaiian shirt with his hands, and gets his weapon, which is a train. Is a some sort of revolver.
Yeah, you should have said it's a railgun.
Oh, damn it! God, fucking damn it! And he would get Jason and Thomas and Rain, and you all have your weapons, and he would maybe look at Rain's big gun, but then sort of maybe nod appreciative of it.
Yeah, it's not definitely on her back. She's definitely not got it ready to shoot. Just
I know.
I would actually the lead box that we originally put this thing in, I would grab that lead box without the actual plant in it, or another box like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, another box like it.
Another box like it, and just carry it with me.
I get it. Schrodinger's alien artifact.
All right, and then Mickey sort of goes to the airlock and starts tapping away to unlock it. It unlocks. There's always that like moment of tension. It was like, does this work properly? But then there's the hiss of air, and then you're entering the other ship's atmosphere, which is more or less the same because they're a very similar design of ship. Well, actually, they're just a similar culture of ship making, and you meet where their airlock opens up, which is on their top floor, which appears to be very similar to yours, into a sort of mess hall / meeting room place. But it looks much more clinical than yours does. Yours is very lived in, little messy. It's as messy as Davis lets it be. He maybe cleans things up every now and again. And out there is
Socks again.
Who's taking their socks off?
It's the galley.
Thomas.
He's on a chair in the galley.
It's because the gym's right there.
Rain is just slinking off, looking like. Don't
Hear the pitter patter of tiny rain feet.
Yeah, she just likes being barefoot on the metal floor. It's comfy.
Yeah.
Standing there on the other side is their captain, and their captain is wearing a uniform that's not necessarily military, but is very neat and proper. He's a man in his prime with a very tall, quite long features. He's much taller than the rest of the crew, and probably taller by most of you. And then there is a guy who seems to be their engineer. Usually assume if someone's in a greasy jumpsuit, they're the engineer. Guy with sort of short, fuzzy hair, and pretty dark skin, who's just sort of like. He actually noticeably has a weapon on him as well. Maybe you both had the same thought process. And then one person who seems to be dressed in a lab coat, and they look like a scientist. They just look the part. They're a sort of woman in their 20s or so, glasses and all, kind of like, looking at a female Jason, but younger and more attractive and better in every way.
Jason's not in his 20s.
I know, but Jason, but this woman.
40 is the new 20.
I mean, in this universe, like, yes, because you live a lot longer.
Rain is still a kid.
And the captain is like a step ahead of the other two, who just sort of clasps his hands behind his back, looks very much like Davis, and just says, I am the captain of this vessel. I am Paulus Pancarbo. You will call me Captain Pancarbo if you must. I did receive message that you wanted to look upon our ship before we take on. Is that the cargo that we are taking? And he looks at Thomas with the box.
Thomas is like just doesn't reply. He's just kind of standing there like just.
Mickey's
Captain Pancorbo. Thomas is a little shy when meeting new people. You understand, on a ship our size, it doesn't happen very often. Pleased to meet you. He holds out a hand.
He goes to shake your hand, and Mickey like does a handshake snipe just before, and you can tell that like he might have thought you were the captain, Jason, because you're much neater than this like pretty old kind of like chubby like guy in a Hawaiian shirt. And they're like, pleased to meet you. I'm the captain, Captain Mickey Trick. I'm pleased to meet you. Handshake keeps going for a little too long. Like,
So
expected.
watching all this happening, transpiring,
because you would have had
everything,
an
the
airlock
ignoring-
camera, yeah.
Yeah, the ignoring while holding the box out and stuff. I'm going to because the camera's out. I'm gonna lean in over Anna's shoulder and be like, "We look like the pirates right now, don't we?"
She just gives you a look. she doesn't even have anything to say about that.
I just shake my head.
The handshake eventually stops, and then he does shake Jason's hand. Like, I'm sure it is a pleasure. You might be interested. Oh, he kind of looks over, and then looking back at Jason goes, which one of you is your science officer?
Well, we don't really have a science officer.
On a ship like ours, we're kind of on these sort of missions. We make do with what we do, but our boy Jason here, he's he can scan all the planets. He can make sure that people are breathing, and honestly, that's usually what we need him for.
He's a double PhD. There's a smart boy right there.
And Pancorbo just sort of nods, very clearly perturbed. As, well, allow me to show you through a walkthrough of our ship. Up there, of course, you can see the bridge. And actually, unsimilarly to yours, the bridge is almost... this ship is almost a heart shape, almost, with 2 engines in the back, and the bridge is in this sort of point at the front, much smaller than your bridge. And some of the jobs are sort of combined. This mess hall is a little bit bigger, walks you down some stairs that are in the middle of the ship. This is our engineering, where the ships are maintained and kept in good condition. And then walks you down to the bottom floor, which is a fairly open plan science lab. It's not just a med bay, it's like a full lab with like an actual quarantine chamber, like a cylindrical chamber that's pretty big. And you would know that's designed for quarantine. There's a quarantine chamber, maybe for other testing as well, but that's its intent. Would have things that would basically make it count as a med bay. It's also probably as a workshop because it seems to have 3D printers and all these other things. And it's very clean down here. And there's currently one other person in a lab coat, kind of moving around. Looks very similar to the young woman that's following, but he's a young man.
Upon seeing the lab, Rain sort of takes an almost unconscious step back, and if any of you look at her, you can see she's gone very pale and her eyes are darting around a bit.
This is a good time, because your reason why you're here is to make perception charisma checks. Why didn't you make me a perception charisma check?
Wait.
Rain.
Hey. Okay, cool.
I mean, the others, you guys can too, but that's why she's here, to look at the crew.
Oh, that was so
That was
close
so
to
close to
43.
another one higher. You're looking around, and right now, just anxiety is welling, and PTSD essentially in this very clean clinical lab.
Yeah, she's clearly very uncomfortable.
It was notice charisma, not no charisma.
Oh, I thought I did notice. My bad.
Shame. It's a great role, but I don't know what you would know charismatically right now.
Nope, makes sense.
I know all the styles.
I can read all of their,
The feng shui of
Hey!
this room is
When you
very
look
good.
around, you actually see that the engineer, he's got sort of like a panel missing off his jumpsuit, which is not surprising. You know, you're working, they'd see a lot of wear and tear. And you see the top of a tattoo that seems very familiar to you. Linked to a sort of... You just recognize...
No charisma check.
You actually
no
recognize...
charisma check.
Exactly. Ah, yeah. With the no charisma check, you're thinking back. Thank you, because I was gonna make him do another roll, but you already got another good roll. And you're trying to think about it. And this tattoo, you only see a part of it, but you're pretty sure it basically ends up being like a sword with this scroll behind it, very like fantasy-esque. Then you remember hearing about a terrorist by the name of Excalibur. who supposedly, and this is like the sort of thing that isn't even in the news. It's just stuff you pick up every now and again while you're going back and forth, and ships talk and stuff like that. Supposedly is involved in a whole bunch of smuggling things, but also is supposedly involved in there's a rumor that this person called Excalibur, and people don't even know if he exists or not, was part of Pike's spy agency. There's actually a group called PICOP that is basically they're sort of cunning affairs. They're sort of, you know, looking on other things and really trying to push independence. And someone who is so extreme that he's basically considered as a terrorist and has like blown up cargo ships and things, or tried to, and runs all these smuggling operations and things, and is just genuinely a very... It's one of those organizations where like an edgy kid would be like, yeah, I want to go like that guy, but like they're horrible, terrible people who do terrible things, but for the reason of Pike's independence and Pike's prospering.
Right.
And it's this weird sort of terrorist group, and that's what you're certain that Tattoo is, and that's you immediately are suspicious of that guy because they smuggle things. They smuggle anything that could make a profit because they need a lot of money for their kind of operations.
This isn't one of the ones that's spoken so far. It's been the...
He hasn't spoken so far, but this guy has noticeably got a weapon stowed on him, unlike the others. The others might have pistols. That wouldn't be surprising, but you don't so much notice a stowed pistol. He's got like an SMG that's sort of like hanging off his back, some kind of like ump-like weapon.
Yep.
You know. And actually, with that little realization, why don't we take our second break? Because that hour went real fast. Mostly because I was just watching.
We all sit down in a circle and we all pull out our rationed Kit Kats and take a break.
Oh.
Hi.
Kit Kats, high quality.
Yeah, but that joke was very much...
No, that joke was low quality. You'll see.
Yeah, I'm just gonna